Welcome to an introduction to Chapter 6, Statistics Describing Data. So I want to show you two main concepts we're going to learn. This chapter, we already did some statistics in the last chapter, Chapter 5, but now we're going to learn about describing data specifically. So some terms used in the professional world. Let's look at an example. Let's talk about an average. That's the first term I want to show you. Suppose you go to work for a company. You're considering going to work for a company for your career, and you want to know what are the salaries of the company. What's my average salary going to be? I want to figure out average salary at this company. Let's suppose here's the salaries of the company, and these are in thousands of dollars per year. So the newest employee makes $30,000 a year. The next one makes $32,000 a year. The next one after that makes $38,000 a year. Then $45,000 a year. And then down here, this is the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, the president of the company. And this person makes $200,000 a year. The other four, it's a small company. It's only got 5 employees. And so you're wondering, hey, what's the average salary at this company? You're maybe, money isn't everything, of course. Money's not going to be the main thing that makes you happy in life, but it's good to have enough of it. And so you're thinking, I want to just know my average salary. What can I expect at this company? Well, do you remember how to figure out an average? You have to add up the numbers, then divide by how many numbers. So we have to add these up. So use your calculator, add those up. I got 345. So let's take that up here. Take that 345, and then you have to divide by how many numbers? How many numbers? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. 5 total people that work for the company, including the CEO. If you divide by that, you get 69. So we're saying 69,000 is the average salary. Right? So remember how to do averages? You just add them up and divide by how many numbers. Now, let's stop and think about that for a second. That is the purpose of this course, is to see how math works in the real world currently. If they told you, oh yeah, during the interview process, you're thinking about coming to work for this company for your career, and the average salary at this company is $69,000, which is true. We added them up and divided by 5. But is that the typical salary? Isn't that what average is supposed to do? You might be thinking, oh, okay, so if I go to work for this company, not right away, right? The brand new employees, they make less and they get raises over time. But after a while, after a long time, the typical salary at this company is about $69,000 because they told me that's the average salary. So I can expect to make, over time, about $69,000. That'll be my average salary, and you're figuring out, what you need to live on and all that. Is that true? Is that what you typically make at this company? Is that what people typically make at this company? No way. Even the employee that's been there the longest, other than the CEO, only makes 45, which is just barely over half of 69. Well, maybe it's 2/3. So no way you're going to make 69,000. The best you're going to do is 45, maybe over a long time. You're not even going to come close to 69,000. So do you see that the 69,000 is not doing a good job of telling you what the typical salary is at this company? Why not? It's because that 200,000 threw everything off. It's such a big number what the CEO makes that when you throw that one in, add them up and divide, you just pull up that average way up to 69,000, so it's no longer really the typical salary at the company. And because of this, we have another kind of average. So this average, where you add them up and stuff, is called the mean average. That's the official name. It's the mean average, where you add up the numbers and divide. So the mean average is 69,000. But now the other kind of average, a better average, a better, I'll say, kind of average for data with a few very large numbers, right? It's 200,000, is median. And that is your video, your video question number 1. Median. And what is median? The median average. This is another kind of average. I don't know if you know there's more than one kind of average. And the median is you just take the number in the middle. You don't add anything or divide. So let's go up and do that. What's the number in the middle? Well, it's this number, right? That's the third number. It's right in the middle. So that would be 38,000. And so is that the typical salary you should expect if you go to work for this company? Yes. You see how that's typical, isn't it? That's what the typical person makes. Over time, you can expect to make 38,000. Do you see how the median does a better job in this case? The median average does a better job than the mean average did on telling us what the typical salary is at this company. So you'll hear about that all the time in the professional world. If you watch the news or read studies, and they'll talk about the average salary at a company, they'll say the median salary or the average house price in its city, because in the same city you'll have more moderate homes and then super wealthy athletes, professional athletes, or doctors or lawyers that have super expensive houses. And so it wouldn't do good to add them up and divide. The mean would be thrown off by the really big numbers. Instead, they'll say median, the one in the middle. And they say that all the time. If you pay attention to official professional information, they'll say the median house price in the city of Fresno, or the median salary for the Apple Corporation. And they mean they took the one in the middle. They didn't add and divide, because that does a better job of average. So there's a term that will be helpful for you to know about. Let me give you one more term. This term down here, let me erase what I've written here so you can see it. This is a question about standard deviation. So let me show you right here. This is a question from the homework about the field of standard deviation. What is standard deviation? Well, first off, what's this example talking about? These are 3 different classes, and they're rating their professor. 1 is the lowest rating, 9 is the highest. So look what class 1 said. 2 people gave the professor the lowest rating, 2 gave the professor the highest rating, and 23 thought the professor was very much average, right in the middle, gave him a 5. Class number 2, they were really spread out. 13 people gave him a terrible rating, thought the professor was terrible. 13 just loved him, thought he or she was the greatest thing in the world. And 1 had a middle opinion. See how spread out that group is? Really high or really low, hardly anybody's in the middle. The third class, they spread really evenly. 3 people gave every kind of rating. 3 people gave him the lowest, the next, the middle, the higher, the top. Very even spread. And we can see this if we look at the pictures. Here's a picture of class number 1. See how there's 23 in the middle? This goes up to a height of 23 over here if you look at the numbers, the frequency numbers. So that's up at 23, and there's only 2 here and 2 here. So there's 2 and 2. So they're very much clumped in the middle. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, here is what we're talking about in this example. Standard deviation, which is another professional statistical term you'll hear about in the world. People use it all the time in professional situations. Standard deviation is a measure. What is it? It's a measure of how spread out data is. How spread out the numbers are. So if they're more spread out, that's a higher standard deviation. So let's take a look. what they're asking us on this question is which one of these three classes gave the lowest and the highest and the middle standard deviation. So this data is all clumped in the middle. This is a low spread. So it is a low standard deviation. You see, the data is not very spread out. It's all clumped in the middle. It's a pile of sand clumped in the middle. Hardly any spread. Everybody's right in the middle except for just 2 and 2. So most people are right in the middle. It's a very low spread. There's not much spread in this class. Most people are right in the middle. That's a very low standard deviation. Standard deviation is a measure of how spread out the data is. This data is not spread out very much. It's mostly right in the middle. Whereas class number 2, as I've already written, this is the highest spread. So it's the highest standard deviation. See how spread out? There's only one person that gave the professor a middle rating. 13 people hated him. 13 people loved him. So very spread out. Most people are way low or way high. Very spread out. Highest spread, highest standard deviation, because standard deviation is a measure of spread. That's your question number 2. That's your video question number 2. How spread out's the data? And this third case, this is an even spread. Right? Some are right in the middle, some are just a little above the middle, a little below, some a little further, a little further. They're just evenly spread. This is a middle standard deviation. So we'll study more of that in this chapter. That's another professional term. Standard deviation is a measure of how spread out data is. So 2 big terms. Median is a measure of the average by taking the number in the middle, and that's better for data sets that have really large, very large numbers. And standard deviation is a measure of how spread out data